Yo, ooh, give it a second for everybody to get here in the building. Go ahead and start. Hit the like button, man, as soon as you come in the building. Cool. About to have a wonderful interview for you guys, man. This brother's tearing it up everywhere. Shout out to everybody in the building, man. Shout out to everybody that was here earlier. You know what I mean? Most definitely, man. Not the new Neo. But yeah, man, it's great to have somebody that's actually out here speaking for men, bro, and not doing this in order to pander for whatever other reasons, man. The brother seems very, very genuine. And tonight we'll get his perspectives of the brothers. You hear me? He the first podcast the viral clip came from was some ladies from the UK, I think. And then he had an interview with Pearl. So, he can't really talk about, black men issues with the white women's per se. But today we're going to specifically focus on black men, mental health, our treatment in society, all these different things we've been saying and trying to alert the world, but first and foremost, black people of. So many brothers out here that are in a state of Stockholm syndrome, okay? Because they're taught to worship and deify their mothers, and that they're told they have to extend that to all women, regardless of how they treat them, expecting nothing back. But the man with the plan, the man of the hour, is in the building. Ask a Brother podcast. What's going on with you, fam?
What's going on, bro? How are you?
Hey, man, I can't complain, brother. Glad to get some of your time, man. Like I said, you hiding the fish grease right now. So let's go ahead and get straight into it, bro.
Could you give me 1 second to turn something off real quick?
Sure, not a problem. Not a problem, man. Mute you up. Can I mute him? Hey, man, y'all be saying what niggas don't do, so make sure y'all support, right?
My bad, bro.
No, you good, fam. For sure, man.
New camera, new everything in the last week, as you could imagine.
Hey, man, for sure, man. So, introduce us to you, brother. We know you as Ask a Brother podcast, but by the St. James, also on Instagram. Let the people know where to find you at, man.
Okay. Well, my name is Jeff James, or Jeff St. James. I am a licensed professional counselor and certified trauma specialist and consultant. I help run the largest mental health nonprofit in the city of Philadelphia, and I've been working in the field for over a decade. Recently started doing this podcasting thing in the last 2.5 months. And, as far as how people can kind of find me, like you said, on Instagram, at Ask a Brother podcast and at by the St. James. And
yeah, Mods, we'll make sure you guys spam his YouTube channel. The brother we gotta support this brother's YouTube, man. So make sure we put his YouTube and sub to him. So where you from originally, man? What's your childhood like?
Philly, believe it or not, bro. North Philly. Yeah, North Philly. I moved from there to South Jersey in third grade. And,
so you in the trenches.
You could say that. North Philly for sure. It's the part of the city that hasn't been gentrified. I'll say that.
Yeah. My shout out to This Might Be Risky. He posted a boxing event like last year, and we went up there, bro. And yeah, man, it was definitely, you know what I'm saying, all the things you hear about North Philly.
Yeah, the food good. So
definitely best cheesesteak in the world,
man. And lived in Jersey from third grade till finished out high school, and then moved back to Philly, and have been there ever since until last year when my wife and I moved to South Jersey, and we had our baby last year.
Congratulations, fam. So literally somebody that came from Black culture and
Yeah.
all those things and so on and so forth, and you've been giving back and trying to help people, most importantly, in one of the biggest places I think the Black community is deficient in mental health.
Yeah.
So shout out to
Yeah.
you, brother, for that. All right,
Appreciate it.
so let's get to it, man. All right,
Mhm.
so we going these last couple of, what I'm saying, you had the people of the Caucasian persuasion that you was talking to, so you generalize. So today, brother, we're gonna try to focus on
Mhm.
the brothers by asking the brother. You feel me?
Okay.
All right.
All it is.
So why don't people care about men, Black men specifically?
The reason why a lot of people, and when I say people, because I do think in general, like you said, men aren't typically cared about. In terms of Black men in the conversation of Black women, there's a lot of what's called solipsism within the female population, which means that they actually tend to struggle when it comes to looking at perspectives outside of themselves, especially when it's male. And we'll see this most demonstrated when we'll bring up things legally that's going on that seems to be at the expense of men and a benefit for women, and they won't equalize that. They'll come up with reasons and justifications for why it should remain as such. Um, Part of it is I think, believe it or not, I it could be partial to it could be actually partially related to how attractions work. So think of it this way: what work does a woman need to do in order to typically get a man's attention when she's out in public?
Just be attractive, fat ass, pretty face, big
Yeah,
chest.
pretty much just be attractive, right?
Yep.
For the average man, if you reverse it, if he's going to approach a woman, ideally he needs to dress pretty decently, carry himself pretty well. He needs to be able to speak well with good diction. He needs to be charismatic. He needs to be able to not come off boring. He needs to be able to give the impression that her life will be more valuable with him in it, or her in his life. And he needs to basically impress her. And I think a lot of times that's almost like a microcosm of what it typically looks like, where men have to figure out a way to earn their value. And that usually starts and stops with what, however much it is that they're providing. So if you're not providing to any particular woman, if you're not related to her and you're not providing any value, there's a pretty significant chance she probably doesn't care much about you at all.
So this goes into I have this thing called the ain't, can't, don't, won't theory.
Mhm.
Black men ain't, Black men can't, Black men don't, Black men won't, no matter how much, right?
Mhm.
The loudest women I hear say, 100K ain't no money, or so on and so
Mhm.
forth, are Black women. And we know that Black women are the second most impoverished group in the country, right?
Mhm.
So how is it, especially speaking from a solipsism aspect, right?
Yeah.
You got to be this together, well-to-do, perfect man for
Mhm.
these women that, what I'm saying?
Yeah. 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 Well, think of it this way. Women don't self-identify with negative attributes. They project that onto the men that fail to meet the mark of what they're looking for. So think of it this way. Um, do women walk around calling themselves broke? Or do
Never.
they give that the title to the men that can't give them what they're looking for financially?
Yeah,
Right?
or the men that are unwilling, the men that can
Yeah.
but won't do it, won't trick
Yeah.
and simp.
If they went out on a date and the date didn't go too well, overall the conversation was dry, it was pretty boring. She won't walk away and say I was boring. She's going to say he was boring. So as a man, if you start to learn that they typically don't self-identify with negative attributes when a man is in the interaction, then you'll quickly start to pick up on these patterns.
Exactly, man. And we like to talk about it from like Black women seem to be disqualifiers before qualifiers, right? It's like everything you don't have versus the
Mhm.
things that you do, right? And
Mhm.
then it's always this thing to where the 95% of men are compared to the 5%, right?
Yeah.
You ain't a rapper, you're not a pro athlete, you ain't Michael B. Jordan,
Mhm.
all these different things. And it's like, little baby, you staying with your mama still.
Mhm.
You got a kid already.
Mhm.
But like you said, once you start saying these things, now you're complaining, now you're being sassy, now you're being
Yeah.
feminine.
Yeah.
What's your take on that change in the I guess the sign language is what Kevin Samuels would call it, what would be the, I guess, the psychological or the mental health equivalent of that?
Probably a combo of projection and narcissism. When you think about it. Now, to be fair, I don't think this is all women or even all Black women. I
Of
think,
course.
right. So, what it is in terms of men is we have to do a much better job on our end of not being so thirsty to get attention from women that we put ourselves in compromising positions because for the sake of getting attention, for the sake of I'm on your live. I don't want to say the wrong word.
Oh, bro, hey, bro, I'm a sailor by brother. You can keep it as real
That's
as
all it is. Like if we get access to the yams, then we'll tolerate quite a bit. If we get access to her attention, her body, like we'll tolerate quite a bit. So, in my viewpoint, when I mentioned the whole narcissism aspect of it, when women behave poorly and you don't leave, you don't correct, and you don't address, you're functionally teaching them and reinforcing to them that negative and bad behaviors in this relationship or interaction is not something that I'm going to be held accountable to.
for sure.
So
All right.
when you so think of it this way, by not addressing the things that you know is going to eventually harm you both long term in terms of an interaction, you functionally get to a point and spot where it'll make sense where if you've ignored the first 9 times when she stepped out of line, disrespected you, said things that she shouldn't have said, dragged your name up for no reason, destroyed your name or character, whatever, you can't be shocked on the 10th time when she doesn't apologize.
Exactly.
Right. So men that are marrying women that never apologize, is whose fault is that? The man. Because no man is walking up to a woman and marrying her within a week. So
Exactly.
yeah, and it's people could say people change when they get married, but there's also a lot of traits that are usually pretty throughout the interaction, if you ask me.
All right. So since you brought marriage up,
Yeah.
okay, I think it's 28 or 30% right now for Black people specifically. That has been said, and it's being said now that marriage is no longer the goal. So if marriage is no longer the goal, and I'm kind of beating myself to a later question. Well, I'll just transition there.
Mm-hmm.
Is it more so men are adapting to the way women are behaving?
Mm-hmm.
Because all she's offering is sex, and she's
Mm-hmm.
not looking for a long-term relationship and protection provision. Is that what men have just done throughout the annals of time? And hey, if it's no longer required, well, I'm not doing it. And if I got to put up with her bitching, moaning, and whining, complaining just to have constant access to sex, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. This is a tough topic because I don't think the rules apply for everybody. Sometimes I think it depends on the man you are and the woman you are. I think it depends on where you are in life that determines why it is you would or wouldn't value some of those things. So men who have a higher volume of access to resources, they can basically arbitrarily pick and choose if they will or won't get married. They may have a prenuptial agreement in place. They may have lawyers. They may feel like, well, I have so much money that even if she were to leave, I'll still be fine. So, and then there's other men who also have a lot of money. Is like, the last thing I'll ever do is put a woman in a position where she can, take half of my wealth. On the flip side, this conversation is really, I want to say something controversial. I think at this point in America, I wouldn't say marriage is a rich man's game, but if you're not making anywhere close to 6 figures, that should be the last thing on your mind. And it's not because I'm using talking points of women. It's because if the statistics are saying that a lot of them are expecting that type of range of salary, and if the divorce rates are as high as they are,
50%,
and they initiate 70-80% of them, you having $50,000, you having half of $50,000 is you basically just working, living outside. Right. So at this point, if you're not getting anywhere close to 6 figures, Kevin Samuels used to say this, your perspective and focus for the next year or 2 or even 3, regardless of where you are in the life is to build up your income, build up your wealth.
So this is one
Yep.
of the pushbacks I had with Kevin Samuels in that theory, especially we knowing, men start hitting their highest earning potential right around 40, late 30s, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
40, right?
Mhm.
My issue and problem with that is if the woman is only getting with you and she's making this requirement of 6 figures, we know for most people, regardless of race, that's
Mhm.
going to be later on in life. That woman's not building with you. She's not seeing your journey. She has no respect for that. She's
Mhm.
literally getting with you for and waiting at the finish line for you to be this complete man. So that's another reason as to why I think men are checking out of the thing. Because, like you said, if you
Mhm.
tell me, "Oh, I got to make $100,000 and I got to do this and that," no, well, baby, you weren't with me shooting in the gym. So if I get to, like you said, I'm 40 years old, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? I'm still, I'm somewhat in shape, and so on and so forth. Why would I now put myself at a coin flip of losing half my stuff?
Yeah.
Because she's definitely gonna get alimony or something at $100,000. That's for sure.
Mhm. Mhm.
You feel me?
Yeah, so a few things with it. The actual point and reason for building up your wealth and revenue is A, for yourself, and then B, one of the bonuses or benefits that can come from that is women, is greater networking opportunities, is potential partnership that can actually help
Well,
assist you.
I'm not saying don't make the money. I'm
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
don't make the money and then sign up to give it all away in marriage is what I'm saying. So I'm
No,
with
no,
you.
no,
I'm
no, no,
all
no, no,
for
no.
make as much money as you
Right.
possibly can. I just want to make sure people are not complaining that. You go ahead.
Yeah. So, in regards to the risk, I would be a man that if a client was sitting in front of me, I'd be the first one to say, actually, I just want you to have your eyes wide open, and you get to make your own decision as you see fit. There's a risk with everything, and there's pros and cons. So, as an example, I there's men who are going abroad, right? There's men who are staying to themselves. There's women. I mean, there's men who outsource locally with the women of the city, right? And that's all fine and good. And those are all alternative options that men can pursue. In regards to marriage, yes, it is actually more risky than probably ever before to pursue marriage. So when I say marriage is somewhat of a rich man's game, yeah, $100,000, you're not rich, but you have the financial ability to be able to still live, recoup, and continue to build. Whereas a man who has half that or less, that starting point can be insanely devastating because the men who end up having to live in their cars, losing their cars, having to move back in with their parents, and they're 35, 40, 45 years old. That's horrible, right? Now, with that said, would you agree with me that every single man doesn't deserve a wife?
1,000%,
All right.
and vice versa.
And vice versa. So that means for the men that are still going to roll the dice, whether you do prenuptial agreement or not, whether you do a postnuptial agreement or not, you as a man have to learn and remember that every single woman does not deserve a husband. So for those who are going to walk down that journey, you have to do a much better screening and vetting process than most men actually used to do, where we just get married and before you know it, 3 years, 5 years, 12 years later, she's gone. I would argue that a very, very small percentage of women in the Western countries truly deserve marriage to begin with. And historically, wasn't that always the case with men? Did
Yes.
in every culture, in every society, did all the men have a woman?
No.
Did all the men have a wife? No. So the reality is I'm not going to say that marriage is for one percenters at this point, but if you're not probably top 10% in the financial area, marriage really shouldn't even be on your radar to begin with.
Great. So you were talking. You said there were three main factors that caused this shift of the social dynamic between men and women.
Mhm.
Can you give those to us?
Yeah. So the pill and birth control, the sexual liberation movement. I'll actually add a fourth, which being women entering the workforce in mass, as well as the social media slash dating app epidemic, if you will. All four of those things help shift uh, not only the general direction of humanity, but the perception of the value and utility of men in women's lives. So, we can expound on each of those if you like.
Yeah, cool. So I think the first three are pretty set. Well, no, one the birth control
Mm.
is leads into the sexual revolution. So let's go sexual revolution, and then workforce, and then those. Birth control is pretty much self-explanatory, but let's
Yeah.
go sexual revolution, and then the next three.
Yeah, well, following the birth control, which allowed women the ability, for the first time in a very natural or in a very not semi-natural, but a very formalized way, they were allowed to delay and push off motherhood and development of a family. Right. So during that same time period, they also started giving men access to their bodies that historically might not have been able to. So as they started doing that, they tried to move and be like men, and they did not anticipate that they might not have had the same consequences or emotional reactions or responses that men did. So, as an example, I want to say the stats was anywhere between 70 to 80% of women at some point felt horrible as shit after a one night stand. Almost no man ever does. So that's a thing where they're in the quest of trying to be equal to men, they're putting themselves in positions where long term they're delaying motherhood, they're racking up the body count, they're increasing their chances for more trauma, and then before you know it, and then in the reason why they're able to do that for a lengthy period of their adulthood is because they entered the workforce and they're able to provide for themselves.
So just a
Yeah.
quick segue there. So,
Mhm.
and I don't think a lot of people understand this now because it's so frowned upon.
Yeah.
But a significant portion of relationships, marriages, families, and whatever started at work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So now after the Me Too movement and
Mhm.
hey, sexual harassment, all these different things, now that's taboo for men. Okay for women because shout out to Joy Taylor. Remember, Joy
Mhm.
Taylor got
Mhm.
exposed. And everybody act like, hey, I'm just gonna use this rich and high status guy, and if he says something, what I'm saying, happened, I'm gonna say
Microphone.
he took the pussy. I'm gonna say he took
Mhm.
it. You feel
Yep.
me? It's
Yep.
crazy, and
Mhm.
everybody's moving away from that, right?
Yep.
But so now men have to approach women on like extremely extremely careful if at all, especially if in the workplace, because it can be used against you as a negative, as like our parents and grandparents never had to deal with that.
Yeah. 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 And it's not just about how they've closed off various areas in our lives where we typically would have met. It's also areas in community in terms of religious, where historically now we're less religious than perhaps we've ever been. So you're less likely to meet them in a church. You're definitely not going to meet them at work. They don't want you to approach them in the gym, and everybody lives on social media.
In the
So
club either, and you can't
yeah,
even approach them in the club or the bar or the
yep,
lounge.
yeah, yeah. So it's we know that in 5 to 10 years, a lot of them that are totally fine with that are going to be complaining about where's all the men and why aren't men coming to the dating events and in the speed dates and why aren't men approaching us and nobody approaches me at the gym. Where are all the men? Like I see it, and the strangest thing is they're not making connections between the environment that they fostered, built, pushed, propagated, and forced on the rest of us. For whatever strange reason, they're like shocked when they get to the other side of it. And I'm like, Father Time's undefeated, the wall is undefeated, but for whatever reason, they literally don't see the wall coming until it's right and smacking them in the face.
All right, and so social media, and we'll segue social media straight into this because you said
Mhm.
two things: eyes wide open, and you, brother, you are well familiar with red pill, manosphere, all these things, and that's what the listeners can hear. Caught right?
Mm.
Shout out to the passport bros. You know what I mean? Shout out or saying, hey, if that shit didn't work, hey, I was finna
Oh
get that
no, I
pass.
was gonna be one. I was gonna be one. And for those that don't know the story, when I first met my wife, then we were just starting to talk and get to know each other. As I'm introducing her to more and more of this manosphere conversations and the perspectives of men and a lot of double standards that men experience and go through. When she heard and learned about the passport bros, like she, like most women, was a little like, ew, like why they got to go through all of that? And I described to her and I told her, I said, to be honest with you, babe, a lot of you are horrible people. A lot of women are horrible people. And
Terrible.
Yeah,
Shout out to
yeah.
Charles Barkley. Y'all are terrible.
Yeah, like a lot of y'all are actually terrible people, and part of the reason why it may seem kind of jarring and shocking to you is because you're not a man on a date and doing life with women. You see them as another woman, and you don't have to live with them. You don't have to date them. You don't have to deal with their time of the month in the same way. So much of the negative things that we would typically experience within the confines of a dating or marriage relationship, you women don't experience most of that at all. So your perception is when your friend is going through something, she's always the victim. I'm explaining to you when I'm single and I'm back out there and I'm about 30 years old, it was brutal. I got attention. I got access to, I was out there. But when I would get on these dates and I would see what they were focused on, where their mind was, what they wanted from me up front in terms of paying for random stuff, I was like, man, this is just so direct and straight transactional. I was like, y'all not even like faking it. And it was getting to the point where it was like, well, if I go through this and I start reaching the milestones that I'm aiming for in my career, and I'm already seeing these types of traits and signs, I think I might seriously have to consider working abroad and taking my money out there and just enjoying my life. And I just so happened in that same season to meet the woman who ended up becoming my wife.
And shout out to her, man. And when you told the story, one of the most important things you pointed out too, I don't think people understand. I was married. I got divorced in 2022, right? So I was married for 10 years.
Nice.
And the same thing you said, that
Mhm.
10-year period, night and day.
Yeah.
From the reaction of how things were so simple. Women weren't demanding this. They weren't saying that. They were satisfied. They were okay. Cheesecake Factory was cool. Eating Red Lobster was cool. Nobody knew what Ruth Chris was. Everybody wasn't taking these trips. The money flew out wasn't a thing. And now, like you said, most of the things that men are complaining about is these women are coming to these situations like prostitutes, bro. These whole culture. 304 culture. I'm sorry. He ain't saying this, y'all. I'm saying this. He's professional.
Yeah, man. I saw that, and in that gap, like I don't recall that at all in 2015. I didn't see it. I don't remember it being this bad in 2015. The social media component of more and more people as they got older and as they made more money, displaying more and more of the best attributes of life: travel, homes, new cars, engagement rings, incredible proposals. I saw how women who were seeing that and knowing they didn't have it were now looking to men and comparing and seeing what they're seeing on social media, and now valuing the man that's in front of them with his ability to allow them to experience that. And they weren't doing that 10, 15 years ago for whatever reason. And it could be that with Facebook and MySpace, we really just weren't using it in quite that way. Whereas with Instagram, the pictures are better, the videos, it's people have whole careers now off of social media.
Live. Yeah, exactly. So let me say this. We said 10 years. It's 2025, so it's more like 15. I'll say that because I would. So we're talking like 2010s, right? Because 2015 started because Instagram became a thing. Snapchat.
Yeah.
We're talking about Snapchat. You feel me?
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Those things. So for the people we're talking about, it's more 15-year range of where it was like everything was normal. And then the closer you get to that 10 is where it starts, but it still wasn't as bad 10 years ago, bro. Still, so don't do that.
No,
it wasn't bad. It wasn't this bad 10 years ago.
It really wasn't, man. It's been shocking to see. And I will say this though, although a lot of times people try to primarily put this on like within the Black community amongst Black women, I think it's rampant in American and Western culture. It's just that some groups are better at hiding it. That's really the only difference. For whatever reason, it seems like within our community, we seem to be the most outward and bombastic when it comes to saying all this huge list of things that's now required that she doesn't have and has never experienced. For whatever reason, it seems like within our community, and it could just be the algorithm, it could just be what we love to share and push negativity. You don't think that white women think like this? You don't think Asian women think like this now in America, especially ones that's Americanized?
But that's that's the problem though. And my thing is we have the worst promotion team ever for whatever reason. I say this all the time, right? I don't
Mm-hmm.
know how why, sexy red became the staple of, black women, a woman that's able to
Mm.
is following and then promote a cosmetic line, a lip gloss line
Mm-hmm.
of these. You feel me?
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know another thing. Shout out to you, brother. Stats and data. That's something
Yeah.
that's why you what you need to know that for. You one of them
Mm-hmm.
podcast niggas. It's like, brother. So me being informed makes me something wrong. You feel me? So it's
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
to the people. And we'll segue this one into types of listeners. Your breakdown of that, brother, is the first person I ever heard say it. But
Mm.
explain to, I think one of the biggest issues and problems to why there's a disconnect between black people and the niggas, for one, right? But then
Mm-hmm.
black women is that. So explain the type of listeners dynamic, brother.
Yeah, so a lot of times when I do podcasts, especially when it's like topical in nature, I try to open up the discussions and when it's going to be pretty controversial, especially to kind of make it known that there's typically two types of listeners that we need to start to focus on and hone in on, especially when it pertains to really important, potentially volatile conversations, both on podcasts and just in our regular everyday lives. The first type of listener are the people that tend to focus primarily on whether or not something is true and whether or not their life aligns with said truth or they need to grow in that area. The second group of people are those that focus on whether or not said truth or said statement uh, agrees with how they feel about it. And they base their ability to receive and accept said information off of how they feel. And this pertains to politics, this pertains to dating, and it becomes so clear, crystal clear when you start talking to people, men and women, people who are extremely passionate and they're just volatile and they're going off. It's almost like you're trying to cram the truth and slap them in the face with it, and they're just fighting it no matter what. And the reason is because they're basing this interaction not centered on whether or not the thing that you're saying or revealing to them is actually true. It's how they feel about it. So when you look at things in that way, you'll start approaching conversations differently. You'll stop allowing your emotions to get too engaged and too elevated because you're like forcing it. Bro, he or she that's talking to you, if they're not really necessarily successfully refuting your argument, they're attacking you, they're attacking the person you're talking about. They're just pulling every fallacy they can use to justify why they can't receive it. Stop wasting your time. So there are going to be people that are listening to these types of conversations, and because it's triggering their emotions or their feelings, they're not a place of actually being receptive to truth.
Yeah, shake the dust off your feet, as the Bible says, brother. Do
Mm.
not cast your pearl before swine. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the things where a lot of brothers are like, hey, I'm just done. I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, hey, I'm done trying to talk to them. I'm gonna live my life, raise my family, do my thing. And
Yeah.
those that will. And if you not, hey, brother, peace and blessings.
Mm-hmm.
Now, new men being held to old expectations of the past. How is that weighing down on, like you said, especially men under 25 or so, right?
Yeah. Number one, I don't even, although they say that, I don't know that that's actually technically true in terms of them holding us to the standard that they held, that our fathers or grandfathers was held to. And this is what I mean by that. It's technically true. You're supposed to provide, you're supposed to protect, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. And like, oh, okay, sure. But what's different in comparison to this form of provision and this form of protection? Well, in the area of provision, we have to make substantially more during inflation than your daddy or granddaddy had to make in order to achieve and accomplish and experience the same things. Granddaddy, whose money went way further and made way less, was able to have up to 6 children, right? Um, I, you know, I'm moving in a direction where at some point I'm probably going to eclipse what both my parents ever made in a single fiscal year combined, in order to get a home that's literally comparable to what I grew up in the same state. So yeah, I have to provide, but my provision looks way, way different. So when we say, all right, well, what's different in terms of protection? Well, back then, For the most part, our fathers and grandfathers primarily had to worry about the men that she saw in person, right? That was pretty much it. We had to make sure she was safe, that she wasn't in unsafe situations. You're dealing with a market of women where there's a heavy percentage of them that has been indoctrinated to believe that men critiquing, stating, and giving feedback about things that she's doing that can make her unsafe and undermine the relationship and put you in potentially in danger, you're now seen as insecure. You're now seen as being possessive, controlling. So as an example, a woman who constantly feels the need to display and share everything that she got going on social media. The new car we got, when we on vacation, what she's displaying in terms of her body, she's giving, she's putting out there potentially too much information to too many of the wrong individuals. And she's increasing your chances for a potentially negative interaction with another man. So, as an example, she's posting all when we on vacation. We got the luxury jewelry. We got all this stuff, and it's constantly on social media, constantly on social media, constantly on social media. The wrong man that pays enough attention, if he can find out what her husband does, and he can figure out where he works, and if he finds out that he travels for work, guess who's home with her? Not him. If him and her are constantly going on trips 3, 4, 5 times a year, and she's constantly posting it while you're out on trips, all they got to do is a quick Google search and a little digging, and they'll find out where your residence is. You come back and your spot is empty. So you're now dealing with an environment where it takes more and requires more in order for you to both protect them and provide them, which is way more of a higher standard than our predecessors had to.
And it's crazy. You mentioned that, right? So I said this, and a lot of people don't understand it. Even and men don't understand this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
bro, the options that women have are infinite compared to what they was 30, 40 years ago, 2 generations ago. Okay.
Yeah.
They were limited to only the men in their vicinity and the men they actually ever came into contact with.
Yeah.
Now, like you said, hey, she looked good enough. She posting that ass. She posting
Mm-hmm.
that body, pretty in the face, and so on and so forth. Shaq being there by DMs. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's always some guy out there, you know what I mean, that's above you, more likely than not,
Mm-hmm.
because 95%, there's that 1% guy out there. And like you said, what you come to find out, these women know this.
Mm-hmm.
So please understand, if that woman got to post herself and body and all that stuff and all this on and so forth, bro, she fishing, right?
Yeah.
And like you said,
Yeah.
all it takes is one DM dive, and you
Mm-hmm.
never know, right?
So yeah, man, that part about that I haven't said this publicly yet, but I think in regards to women and how they present themselves publicly, especially prior to marriage and prior to engagement, I think men need to stop commenting on it. And this is going to sound revolutionary, but hear me out. Your goal is to reward women who are living and doing the right thing up front, not trying to convert her and change her into the version of a woman that you think that you can now respect, because you already know who she really is. So if she doesn't self-correct, or if she doesn't avoid these things, you're going to spend an awful lot of time trying to jump through the mental hoops for why she's allowed to do it, why she's allowed to present herself a certain way. And the very thing that she was advertising to get your attention, she can still keep doing while you're now in her life. Stop wasting your time with women that you're not compatible with in terms of long-term commitment if you're interested in that.
AKA,
My issue is, and I remember when I was talking to her, and at first she was a little bothered by the fact that I would be like, we only have 2 categories. Those we'll have fun with, and those we'll take seriously. And she was like, so how do you distinguish the difference between them two? Well, the starting point is how you look, your presentation. And she's like, well, you can't just judge a woman. Yes, we can, and we will. And I challenge men to start to be more intentional with that when it comes to long-term commitment and relationships. Think of it this way. And I'm sure people have heard something along these lines. When men are going to strip clubs, are they bringing engagement rings and looking for their wife?
never.
Why is that? They half naked, they sexy, they beautiful, they charismatic, they're sultry. Why aren't men, if these are some of the most beautiful women in the city, bodies are drop dead gorgeous, bad, super bad in the face, like all the whole nine. If showing as much as possible is the new it wave, why aren't men taking wedding rings or engagement rings and going into clubs, lounges, and strip clubs to find their wife?
Because
Because
she
they
for
know,
sale.
because they see that as for sale. They see it as transactional. They see it as recreational and for fun. What's happening is a huge demographic of women, our women included, have now bought into I can double dip. I can dress like them, dance like them, carry myself like them, promote myself like them, but I still should be treated as if I'm not them. My argument is, as men, you don't try to correct that. You let women be who they're going to be and you respond accordingly. And it's not, think of it this way. If a dude was, if you walk in Kensington Ave in Philadelphia, is known as the drug capital of the country. If you walk down there, it's homeless people, people sleeping on the street. How you think they dress?
Bummy.
Dirty, bummy, clothes torn up, right? And if I'm as a man, what if I started dressing like that? And then I start approaching women and they looking at me with holes in my shirt, dirty, look like I haven't washed up in 6 months. And then I say, well, why are you judging me? Why would you think I'm homeless? Why wouldn't you why would you think I'm homeless? I'm not homeless. I got plenty of money. They said, but you're presenting yourself as if you are.
Exactly.
So if you're dressing like a stripper, if you're dressing like an escort, if you're dressing like a city girl, we gonna see you as such. This is not rocket science. And for whatever reason, it seems like they want the freedom to be able to have sex with who they want to. They want the freedom to be able to leave whatever relationships they want. They want the freedom to be able to dress how they want to, but they also want the freedom from the consequences of being judged for those types of choices.
Okay, so that leads into this: women's
Mm-hmm.
entitlement and arrogance in dating.
Mm. What you think?
Man, listen. Every woman, like I said, I'm every woman syndrome. Every woman thinks that she's Tyler. Every woman thinks that she Rihanna. Every woman thinks that she's, all the single moms want to be Sierra, right? They're waiting for their Russell Wilson. It's just ridiculous, man. Like you said, these women coming to these situations, absolutely nothing, making the most demands.
Yeah. 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 You know whose fault it is though? Simps. Our fault. Simps. Yeah. Like the market and the quality of the dating market is 99% the fault of men. And it's not me simping to women. It's because simps are the reason for why it's gotten this bad. Because they know at the end of all of these types of choices, there will always be a man that will try to bail them out. That doesn't matter the track record. Doesn't
What's
matter.
your ratio? What's your ratio for simp population by percentage? Do you think?
Ooh, that's tough because of the MGTOW, men going their own way, the passport bros. That's a tough thing to try to guess because there's so many men that are now opting out of dating and pursuing women, and the men that are still pursuing women are pursuing them abroad. A very small percentage of men are still pursuing marriage. I would say maybe about 30%.
30% of simps or 30% of non-simps?
Sorry, I think 30% of men are active simps at this moment.
Okay, I will raise a little higher. Just 40. We ain't that far off. I'll say at least 40.
Okay.
I'm with you where the majority of men are not simps. I think the problem is the same
Mhm.
way, and then that goes into this 80-20, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I think the same way that 80-20 works for the desirable men, right?
Mhm,
And a lot of
mhm.
people, I think they purposely misconflate this. Oh, y'all saying 20% of the men are having sex with 100% of the women. No, it's not that. It's that the 20% is incredibly easy for them. Okay, the
Yes.
20% are the women, the men that the women actually want, right?
Yep.
Those 80% still get women, just not at the percent of the, what I'm saying,
Yep.
the rate of the 20, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think with the simps, it's the same way because the simps are the safety net. So
Yeah.
after the 20% dude, like you said, he can choose and do whatever he want. He
Mm-hmm.
knows there's another woman. He's never really taken women serious.
Mm-hmm.
So the 80% are in the simp things, and the simp now because he's undesirable, because
Mm-hmm.
he's short, because he's whatever. Well, I'm a payer.
Yeah. 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 So what they're effectively doing is paying for respect. They're paying for love. They're paying for fidelity. And whereas men who are in the 20%, they're doing it because they want to, not because they have to. That's the difference. The only singular difference between a simp and men who are not are men who are not simps know they don't have to do it if they choose not to. Simps know that if I don't do this, she'll leave. Sympedemic. I'm gonna start using that. Yeah. So they're paying for love. They're paying for fidelity. They're paying for respect, and they know that those things will dissipate and disappear if they stop paying in yep 30% simps 90% tricks. Yeah, and I wanted to be a distinction between tricking and simping, because tricking is, we both know what this is, and there is no emotional attachment or desire for more than what this is for. Simping is a lopsided exchange where he's attempting to get more from her than she's ever willing to offer emotionally. And he knows that the very bare minimum of things she is going to give him in response, he knows at any point he can lose that if he stops. Tricking is, this is a one-off. Or I'll see you this time next week. So just because a dollar is being exchanged doesn't mean those dollars being exchanged is for the same reason or for the same motives. Tricking is, we have an agreement, we gonna do what we gonna do, and we keep it moving. And whether our agreement is on the down low, our agreement is every time I'm in town or when I'm going on vacation, that's tricking. But simping is, I have to do this in order for this woman to act as if she actually likes me or loves me.
So now that you're well versed and familiar with red pill manosphere content,
Mm,
how far off are we? Are we way extreme to one side? Are we extreme? Are we somewhere in the middle?
mm.
By your assessment, where are we with the men's opinion, reaction, and perception of this whole situation?
Yeah. So both watching this stuff for years and doing a little research or whatever, I think it's definitely split down the middle between two categories of men. One category of men are those who are now seeking to accept the reality of women, their nature, their ability to change, their ability to base major decisions on their happiness and responding accordingly. And they're basically, red pill is just moving with your eyes wide open. You're recognizing that there are risks and you're just moving however you see fit, but your eyes are wide open. You're not shocked or surprised by anything that's going to come. Black pill is what I would consider has the potential for looking very close to extreme. I said this on Pearl's podcast that I think at this point in time, with the growing anger, bitterness, and resentment in certain populations of the men in regards to their general treatment from women, they are looking and starting to sound like the female equivalents of third and fourth wave extremist feminists. Why do I say that? Well, third and fourth wave extreme feminists don't see literally any value in men other than what they can use them for: resources. They say, what do we need men for? Men aren't important. They think that men are so dangerous that they'll pick a bear over a man if they're in the woods, stupid stuff like that. They have dehumanized men to such a degree to where they don't see almost any inherent significant value or purpose for a man in their life. And as a result, they see men as basically less than. Men who are on the other side of the spectrum, who are unhappy, who have been divorced, who have gone through some major devastating things and they haven't recovered, have the potential to make very similar talking points as so this is my view about it. When we say the worst of the worst women are the ones that hate men, the ones that use men, the ones that say that men are useless and we don't need them. They have such a warped, dark, uh, blacked out, pessimistic view of men. Black pill for men is starting to sound and resemble and look just like those women that we say are the worst aspects of female culture. So I don't know what the percentage is of men that would identify as black pill. And part of the reason is because many of those men just simply opt out. They just opt out. They don't run around and constantly keep saying women aren't this or women aren't that. They just opt out of dealing with women in life. They stop dating them, they stop pursuing them, they stop approaching them, they stop asking them out. They in fact they go out of their way to kind of avoid them. So I feel like it's almost more of a subtle rejection. Whereas women who are on the extremist side, they're very overt and public about their misandry. But the men who are resigned to feeling like women are horrible creatures and there's none good in this entire country, they're effectively twins at this point. Now, is the black pill percentage of men anywhere close to the percentage of women that are misandrous?
Hell
No,
no.
no. I think I would say 3 to 1 right
I
now.
would, I would say more like 10 to 1.
Yeah,
Where
yeah,
we
it's high. It's
yeah,
definitely high, man. It's definitely
crazy.
high, man. Yep.
Like you said though, I agree. Like you said, for the most part, the black pill dudes talk amongst themselves. Shout out to my man, Morpheus. Shout out to him, man, on the base
Hmm.
Pluto.
Hmm.
Um, and it is a lot of doom and gloom, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
at the end of the day, from what I've seen, a lot of those dudes go through that moment, and then
Hmm.
you find your way because
Yeah.
they're still giving self improvement notes and things like that, and so on and so forth, and like just,
Hmm.
but it's just like, hey, she don't like you, she don't want you, motherfucker, but this is what you can do so you can get the
Hmm.
best outcome if you really still want to deal with these women. So shout out to those
Yeah.
brothers.
Yeah.
So this is the big question, man.
Hmm.
Can this be fixed? Black people specifically, and then we'll talk about start with us and then work out because I'm pretty sure you heard of, hey, the country gets the cold
Hmm.
and we get the flu, but it's more like now stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So can this be fixed? One, that's probably why I started doing this, because I believe that it is fixable, but it's not for everybody. No, as an entire community and culture, no. What group moves like a monolith? None.
None.
None. So that's the same with black people. I think we have to get to a point or place where you have um, black people and you have ninjas. All right. So black people are individuals that's trying to better their lives on a generational level and trying to make improvements. They're trying to grow. They're trying to improve. They're trying to remove themselves from horrible decisions or toxic situations or even environments that they were born into. Black people are trying to move in such a way where they can progress in society and be an asset. Ninjas aren't interested in any of that. Ninjas are interested in primarily self gratification and in the moment. Ninjas are the reason for why our image is the worst in the world. Ninjas, many of them will never change or they'll die in that role and position. So the percentage of ninjas is growing. So when I say, is it fixable? Yes, for black people, not for ninjas. So I draw that line of distinction. Now, when you say, well, Jeff, what's the percentage between ninjas and black people? Honestly, it's going to depend on the day for me. Sometimes with what I see and what I see promoted, sometimes I think it's way, way, way bigger than it actually is in terms of the quote unquote ninjas. And it's because the social media does a overrepresentation of a minority thing that's often happening in communities. So as a clear cut example, yeah, man, there's a lot of crappy things in our culture and our society. But if you ever went to school, if you ever went to ninjas be breeding, that's funny. Uh, ninjas, that this is going to sound bad, and people are going to say that I'm elitist. They're going to say that I'm classist.
Oh, bro, listen, brother. It's not
Yeah,
you, brother. I know you new here, but
yeah.
you've said nothing bad, brother. Compared, bro. Yeah.
Listen, man, and I'm more so saying it for all the people who haven't heard from me before, right?
Okay, yeah.
Um, we have to recognize Every other culture, they draw lines between the people who are making them look bad and the people who are trying to uplift their view and value in society. We're the only ones that try to cling to and promote the worst aspects of what's in our culture. And the craziest part is we oftentimes aren't even the ones that initially put them up. It's usually other groups that are monopolizing the money, the fame, the artists, and making money off of it at our own debauchery. So my view is that I don't care what type of music you listen to. That don't mean you got to try to live it.
Thank you.
Right? I don't care what type of artist you're really down with. That doesn't mean you got to emulate them in every way, shape, or form. You have mothers having their 4-year-old girls twerking in front of them online. You got women who have OnlyFans accounts with children that go to public school. My view is, as a community, we have to get to a point or place where we have to draw lines in the sand. And guess who really has to draw those lines? The women do. Because you accept it and won't shame it and won't turn away from it if it's your girlfriends that do it and live it like that. And then you run to the very men that are the worst in our community. And they're the ones that get access to your body and children.
And then you expect for the straight and narrow guy. Well, I mean straight guy too, because
cleanup crew, right?
yeah.
Then what's left? What's left is the cleanup crew.
Mentor these kids. Care what if these poor black boys? Oh, how about you have them with men that are going to be fathers and be the meant to be mentors, as in their dads.
Yeah. Now for men like myself, if you was in the streets, if you was a man of culture, you was outside for a little bit. You were younger, you were immature, you didn't know what was going on, and you were just living life. As you got older, you were supposed to change. You were supposed to mature. We have women that are still in their late 30s, early 40s, still competing and going into the same environments and acting and dressing the same way as women in their teens and 20s. We have to grow up as men and as women. Now, for men, if I said, okay, Jeff, you said that women need to disassociate themselves from women that are dragging us down. They need to stop messing with the men that they know are horrible reflections and shooting up the club and causing all this violence and chaos and scammers and everything. Well, what do the men need to change? As men, we need to start rewarding positive behavior in the women that we're pursuing and stop rewarding bad behavior in women that we know are dragging us down as a culture. You work so hard to build up your wealth, and you giving it to a streetwalker
for 18 years.
For 18 years? You're knocking up women that you know you can't live with and can't marry. You're really doing that. Hold on. Why we're celebrating baby showers more than weddings?
Well, gender reveals not. I think it's more gender reveals than baby showers, but same thing.
Yeah. Basically, we're reversing all the wrong. We've literally reversed and flipped everything on its head. So for me, I'm now recognizing, like, all right, if I am going to get married again, it has to be a woman of caliber, somebody that's smart, somebody that can hold it down if something happens to me, somebody who comes from a stock of women who I could see as my aunts, see as my grandmothers. And they still have that maternal instinct inside of them, where they don't have this misandrous attitude littered all throughout their family line. But when I date her, she's going to be the different one. Stop being stupid. We as men got to wake up. I promise you, if we stop rewarding every man that's listening to this, get on your computer and unsubscribe from your OnlyFans account that you got. Every woman that you follow, that's a detriment to what you're trying to become and be, go ahead and unfollow her. We are giving them the likes, we're giving them the comments, we're giving them the cash, we're giving them the attention, and then we're complaining about the quality of the dating market as men. we are reinforcing and paying for the reason of the quality of what's out there. I promise you, if women weren't getting the money, stuff would change. If they weren't getting access to our resources, things would change. The only reason it's gotten this bad is because somebody was paying the bill. Us.
Indeed. I got this one question, brother, before we get out of here and we go make sure people get your contact information because, again, you are an actual therapist, okay? Licensed, trained, experienced, all these different things. And like I said, one of the most important things I think brothers pass up on is actual mental health. And especially with a brother like yourself that's not going to be biased or be, because a lot of things I've heard Black men speak about, right, specifically, and I've even experienced this when I was married, we was doing marriage counseling. It's your fault. You. And with you having an understanding of all these different things and just, how you break everything down, I definitely want to give them the opportunity. But I got this one question for you, brothers. Somebody paid too. So I'm going to ask this question. We'll let you get up out of here. I greatly appreciate your time. Shout out to A with the $7 Canadian. Hey, fantastic. Can you ask me if dating app and social media made women delusional and entitled? Like how's 90% of women online goes for 10% of men?
Yes and no. It's hard to call someone delusional when something that didn't work for was granted to them at 18 and they didn't have to earn or do anything to keep it for the first 12 years of their life leading up. The first 12 years of their adulthood leading up to 30. So why would you call somebody delusional who did not have to do anything? They were just born with something that attracted men of all calibers to them. That's not delusion. It's actually based to some degree on actual experiences. Like, think about it. Men approach them. Men ask them out. Men pursue them. Men court them. Men take them out on flights. That's not happening to us. That's why it comes off so crazy delusional. The issue is, how long can she assume that that's possible for her, especially with the caliber of men that she wants? So that's where where it can turn into delusion over time. When you're getting older and older and things are becoming more difficult and your knees starting to hurt and the weight's getting put on and there's women that's more feminine and softer and skinnier and more fit, and you keep thinking you're on their level. That's delusion. But their first 12 years of adulthood, why would it be delusional if they're getting access to more men than their mothers were? They are. But in terms of entitlement, absolutely. Absolutely. And the reason why I say that the entitlement has worsened is because the perspective in the past was, prior to social media, the only man that should be interested in providing for me is the man that plans on marrying me and I plan on marrying. That's the only man back in the day who I should have expectations for, offer me all this stuff. Now, because of situationships, because of being on rosters, because of rotations, they're now anticipating higher and higher level of expectations for every single man that they're interacting with. And it gets higher for the next man. So as you're getting older, getting more traumatized and more jaded, your standards aren't going down, they're going up. That's delusional entitlement. So, I think it's a little bit of a mix of both, but like naturally, your market value shoots off the roof as soon as you become an adult. And of course you're getting approached by high schoolers. You're getting approached by men with cars in their 20s, college guys. You're getting approached by potentially guys in their 30s and potentially men in their 40s that's making a lot of money. Why wouldn't they assume that, and I didn't have to work for it? You get used to that level of narcissism and entitlement. But over time, the delusional meter should kind of click in and let you know there is a time limit on how I can do this. The delusion is thinking that I can do this in perpetuity forever. My view is women who keep convincing themselves that their beauty will last forever and there will always be men that want them. Why is it that there isn't a long line of men standing outside of retirement homes with wedding rings in their hands, waiting to date your grandmama? Because at some point, the fall off is here. And the way y'all moving, it ain't just life. It's your choices that's actually dragging you down. You ever met a hard looking 35-year-old woman,
Yes.
right? But it wasn't just the physical look. She had that dead in the eyes look, right?
Yes.
That eyes. And you see it where you know it's part crazy and part tired. And it's because you've done too much of life with too many men where the
Well,
joy and sparkle of
translate,
femininity,
brother.
the joy and sparkle of femininity is gone.
Yeah, too many dicks. She dicked out.
Yes.
She dicked
Basically,
out.
basically. Yeah,
Yeah,
man. So yeah, there is some delusion, there is some entitlement, but some of it is warranted when they're younger. And if they don't grow out of it or meet the right person, if they hold on to it, the more delusional they become.
for sure. So how can the brothers get in contact with you, man, if they need your expert advice, brother? Would it be through your Ask a Brother podcast or the By the St. James?
All right, so there's a few options, man. So y'all can hit me up through IG, by the St. James, or by Ask a Brother podcast on IG, of course. I actually am in the process of working with a team to put my schedule together so people can just click on a link, book to connect with me, and then we can start chopping it up. I've had people from Colorado, Cali, Texas, Atlanta, somebody from South Africa, all in this week, reaching out to connect. And because it was so overwhelming between the different companies I'm working with, and everybody saying like I can't get back to all these people, I want to put the scheduling in y'all hands. If y'all feel like y'all want to chop it up, there'll be options of whatever type of interactions you want to do, whether it's therapy, consultations, podcast experiences. Y'all have the opportunity, man. I really just started in the last 2 months. It is getting harder and harder for me to connect with people. So the best thing I can do is create a link, put it in both my bios, and then let y'all take it from there.
Most definitely, brother. Hey, man, I greatly appreciate your time, man. Like I said,
Mhm.
keep doing great things. We definitely need you out here because
Mm.
you know us lowly people like myself. You ain't nobody, nigga. You just a nigga with a camera and a mic. You know, you
Listen,
just can't
man.
get no women. And I'm like, but
Nah.
really, brother? So,
Mhm.
hey,
So
man,
you
keep
know,
doing great work, bro. We
yeah.
greatly appreciate you, man.
They listen, I appreciate the invite. I definitely want to chop it up with you some more and do more stuff like this. I want to connect with the people who are connecting with me this early in the journey. Because y'all the ones that basically are telling me there's some value in my perspective. And I won't forget, and I don't forget people who have helped me at any point in my life.
Hey,
Um,
and I appreciate you for keeping your word, man, because you threw that. And I was kind of like, damn, he was just on Pearl. Shit, you might.
nah, nah. So nah, listen,
It's
listen.
solid, man. Like I said, you ain't got to say it. I'm saying it for you. The
Mhm,
brother's a man of his word, bro. Man of his
mhm.
word, punctual, all those things, man. And I greatly appreciate you, brother, for coming for, especially like I said, giving the black perspective and talking to the brothers, man. So,
Appreciate you.
yeah, man, for sure.
All right, man. Well, y'all enjoy the rest of y'all evening, and I'll see y'all soon.
All right, brother, for sure.
All right, take care.
Yeah. Hey, man. Greatly appreciate y'all for coming through. I'm gonna drop this link in here just in case y'all want to come up. You know what I'm saying? And y'all want to have the convo, right? Um, any questions or whatever, or perspectives, or where you guys think he may be. Well, again, and listen, bro. How can I say this? Shout out to Angry Man. Shout out to Jap. Shout out to Tommy. Shout out to Obsidian. Shout out to May you rest in peace. Um, David Carroll, Kevin Samuels. Um, Shout out to all the brothers that are saying the things that most men are afraid to say. All right. And of course, yours truly. All right. Bro, this stuff comes with a price. All right. When you get out here and you speak truth, candidly, not holding nothing back, being 1,000% honest, bro. You feel me? This is not a journey that you choose to take. So please understand this brother's professional. So he cannot deliver the message, and do not expect him to deliver the message and throw away everything he's accomplished for the sake of the message, the rawness, right? There is one of the things that Kevin Samuels was able to do was he was able to make the message palatable, right? And some brothers are meant to do that. You feel me? All right. Most again, I prefer the raw, the real, the cussing. All right. That to me keeps that the essence y'all niggas want to say we throw away. Oh, y'all let bitches into space. Well, nigga, I'm here. You feel me? You focus on the bitches, nigga, when ain't no bitch saying this shit better than me. You feel me? There's no woman giving this message. I know she got a pretty face. I know she got big titties, whatever, right? She may be bad, but she's never going to give you this better than me because I'm a black man that's lived this and experienced it. Okay? All right. This is first person experience, not what I think. This is what I know. And then the black men that have been around me and told their stories, and I've seen and I was witness, and they talked to me, and they, all these different things, so on and so forth, right? So please, man, support this brother and brothers like himself, right? Because we need that. I told y'all, man, as long as we have this thing, to where as long as we have this thing to where you got bruh, you gotta be one way and one way only, bruh. It's never gonna get nowhere. I told y'all that the black man renaissance is real. Okay, this stuff is happening. It's happening slowly but surely every day. Until if you ain't got a Twitter, look on Twitter. IG just full of pictures and skits and funny shit, right? People don't really give their opinion for the most part. But on Twitter, bro, I literally see it changing.